Hi everyone, welcome to my hair tutorial. I said I was gonna do one and some of you guys asked for one, so here it is. Let's just jump right into it. Here I am just marking the general shapes of the hair. I chose these four reference pictures, although I am only going to use three of them. Here I'm just mapping out the general, not general, the locks of hair, which is how I sketch usually. It's the easiest way of just keeping not an eye, but um, figuring out how the hair is laying and all of that stuff. I chose the red, but then I had to go for the blue because the third image she has red hair, so that's what's going on there. Here I'm trying to, I don't know, I think I was just explaining the what I had done with the red lines. So there's the basic shapes, like I said, which are just, you have to focus on the locks instead of doing like trying to draw every single strand of hair, because that's really difficult. We have so many strands of hair. It's impossible to just paint them all unless you're going and unless you're going for a really a realistic type of look. I think it's always better to just simplify. It looks nicer in my opinion. Um, yeah, I was trying to illustrate it right there, but then I just gave up and went to paint that a little bit. Yeah, here we go. So I apply the base color first, just a general base color, not too light, not too dark. There you go. First base color. Second, I go for the shadows. I don't go for the darkest dark right away. I go for a semi dark. Semi dark color, just so it doesn't get too dark too fast, although you can always go with the base color over top anyways. Here I'm explaining that you can always vary the colors. Don't just go down to the darkest. You can always add a little more red, add a little more orange, all of that. Here I'm darkening it up a lot more, focusing on where the hair overlaps, which is where it's darker. Now, highlights. You can do these three steps in different layers. I would advise doing that until you're comfortable, and then you can do them all in the same layer. It's the same, I would say. Um, but it's easier to fix mistakes like this. I actually misspelled highlights right there, but that's all right. I hope you guys understand. And then the fourth step for me is just adding details with a smaller sized brush. I just go ahead and define the little locks. I usually go with a little bit of a darker color, and as you can see, I just draw out the locks. In this case, the hair was really like swiped back, so you could clearly see the locks. So this one was easy. For straighter hair and all of that, it's a little bit difficult, but yeah. As you can see, I went a little bit overboard there with the small strands, so I went with a bigger brush again, and I just it smoothed it out. Sorry for my English. I'm just cleaning out the edges. I usually do this with the skin tone and all of that. I'm blending in a little with the background at the crown there. This hair ended up being a little too warm colored, but you can always fix that. I was trying to see if it looked semi good compared to the original. I think you can tell what I was going for. It's a little more simplified, but like I say, you can always go with the details and just make it look as good as you want. Now we're gonna paint this one. This one is more straight. There's some bangs. I decided to go for some pink. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. Well, let's go for some pink. Blocking out the general shape, base color. We're gonna go for a shadow. I don't like this color, so I'll just make it look a little better. Um, I just recently started working with my own colors. What I mean by this is choosing my own colors and see what works. So sometimes I still fail at it, but just keep on going, keep on working, and if you don't like it, just go over it. I'm doing this all in the same layer, but like I said, you can make new layers for every single bit. You can make a layer for the base color and then shadows, highlights, details. It's easier to control when you make a mistake or something. I usually just go over it, but I understand that sometimes it's a little makes us a little anxious. Here I'm doing highlights and now I'm doing the details. I went for a little bit of a whitish highlight, which isn't the most correct thing. It tends to make it look kind of boring. But I'll talk about that in a little while when I show you a little bit of a palette thing when I finish the third hair. Here I just took out the top sketchy layer and now I'm going for the more loose strands, which I think is probably one of my favorite parts of doing the hair, just going for the loose strands. But then I tend to go overboard and then I have to go with the bigger brush again. I don't really have to go, but I do, because I don't want it to look too like there's hair everywhere. This isn't how the original hair looks. The original hair, um, she has black and white hair. I was gonna go for it, but then I'll just go for a bit of color. I was saving there, but then I decided not to, because this is for the tutorial, so I'm not saving. I don't know why. Trying to figure out something here. I'll probably just cut this bit. Yeah, let's go for the third one. So I'm drawing a face, so we can talk about the way the hair just I don't remember the word, but the way it looks around the face, it's usually darker. So yeah, I'm making a very kind of uglish face, just so there's something there. I fix it a little bit. Don't know why. There you go. Fix the nose. There you go. Cheeks and I think I had a neck. Yeah, I lost a little bit of time. I was seeing here that I kind of the eyes are kind of in the same spot, and the nose and the mouth kind of. It's not as beautiful, but um, you get the picture. I was going over the edges there of the fringe, so I didn't make it too big. Let's go again for the simple bits. I went for a bit of a blonde here, or attempted. Blonde is really difficult for me because there's all types of shades for shadows, and that is really hard to make it interesting, and it's really easy to make it boring and not look like blonde. But yeah, there we go. The 4 steps again. I spell highlight right this time. Yay. Details. There we go. I think we're going for some shadows now. Like I said, shadows on blonde hair is kind of difficult. And then there's all types of blonde hair. You got that more icy blonde, this more honey blonde. I went for a honeyish blonde, I hope. I that's what I was going for. Yeah. I'm going with the shadows like I went in the other hairs. I'm going through the perimeter of the face, which is where it's darker, where the hair folds, um, where the hair overlaps is usually where it gets even darker too. It's easy to make it pop like this. Here I'm going with a bigger brush and just going with the slightly darker tone just to define and to blend a little. Here I'm going with some highlights. I usually keep the highlights to the middle of the locks. Um, as you can tell, there's shadow and then a little bit of the base color, then the highlight, and then base color and shadow. I'm taking out the sketch and going with a smaller brush, going for the details. Like I said, this is the part where the hair can become a lot more interesting instead of just the locks alone, which can look kind of like Play-Doh to static. I'm not the best at creating movement, but I think drawing loose strands here and there helps with the movement and making it interesting. Adding more detail with the highlights. Here I was saying that to not make the highlight really close to the shadow, you can do that, but it's usually used to make a really dramatic shadow or a really dramatic highlight. Whereas here I tend to I want to make it look a little bit softer. You can overlap strands of hair, you go with the base color again, and then you swipe it and put some shadows. And yeah, here it is, the little cheat sheet. Um, it talks about how to blend colors and make them look more interesting instead of just going down the the color selection and going from lightest to darkest, um, adding some other colors into the mix. And yeah, here I'm just exemplifying that if you make um, the reds just using red, it's really boring. Whereas there on the cheat sheet, they use kind of a purplish, and it looks very interesting, and I really like it. I will try to link this little thing down below so you guys can check it out. It's really interesting, and you can study it and you can try it with literally everything. It doesn't have to be hair, it doesn't have to be anything. You can use it for clothes, hair, eyes, anything you want. Here I'm just trying to make this fit. Putting this all in the same spot. I think I'm gonna delete that, yeah, and I'm just gonna write down the steps again a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. There we go. First there's the base color, then there's the shadows. You can do it in a new layer or not. That's up to you. I would say that it's a good idea to add a new layer. Same thing for the highlights, and then same thing for the details. You can make it as detailed or as undetailed as you want. I use a smaller brush, usually the same brush, just like this brush so much, not so much. You can find my brushes in the description. As always, I use the kind of rectangular brush to paint, and the other one underneath. I don't know if it's from the same brush pack, to be honest, but it's there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful to you guys. Please let me know if you want to see any more tutorials. If this wasn't that helpful and you want me to post something else, a more in-depth kind of tutorial. I don't know what else I can say because this is basically all I do, but I can try for sure. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to my channel and let me know if you want any more tutorials. Thank you. Bye.